Hello. That recording in progress message always gets me a little bit. It's so loud. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our Techspressionist Salon number 23, I believe, right? Yes. The day is August 3rd, 2021, and I mentioned my cat earlier, and here he is again. Okay. There we go. All right. My name is Davonte Bradley, otherwise known as Davo. I'm your moderator for this the salon. Joining me is Colin, who coined the term Techspressionism, and our host of wonderful artists, including two that are presenting today, which would be Rebecca Tombaugh and Cynthia. Oh God, I don't want to butcher your last name. Donato. Donato. Got it. Okay, I should have practiced that before, but you know what? I like to do it on the fly, apparently. Anyway, before we get started, I actually want to share something with you all. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, like the past 2 or 3 salons now, I've developed a little bit of anxiety going into these meetings, and I have no idea why. I know that the climate has changed from our first couple of salons, which were very cozy, by the way. I think we averaged around like 8 to 12. And then we, like the past couple, we hit like 36 and around that number. So there was a lot more participants in the salons, but the general format hasn't changed. But for whatever reason, in my mind, something has changed and it's like anxiety inducing. Don't know why. That would definitely explain why, at least I know for the last meeting, I might have like jumbled up things and like tried to speed through, or I might have come across a little nervous, but that's that. Just wanted to share that with you all in case something might seem a little bit off with, you know, my typical moderation stuff. But yeah, just bear with me. I'll get there. Whatever this is.
You're doing a great job, dude.
We haven't picked up on that at all, Davo.
I guess we were our well, thank you. I guess we are our own worst critics, I guess.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that out of the way now. Yes, my wife is over there smiling at me now. We do have our typical format. I'm sorry?
I'm inspired from you, rather, I should say. I have sent a mail also.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, speaking of Malavika, she actually has a collaboration project of her own that she's starting soon. We'll be able to talk a little bit about that a bit later after the presentations, but I want to make sure to give her a little bit of time after the presentation so that, you know, she can plug her project and we can get that going. If you are new here, is this your first salon? The typical format is, you know, we have our little introduction. We then have our 2 artists present, and it's Rebecca and Cynthia today. Their presentations will span about 30 minutes or so each, and then we'll have like a 15 or so minute Q&A. And then after that, it's kind of a free-for-all discussion, which anything and all things related to art, the movements, and news, whatever pertinent to the things that we care about, it gets discussed during that time. We've been using it to just talk about the presentation still, but it's like it's free space. And then I don't think we have any other new. Oh, I know Michael has a new project as well that he will give him time to talk about too. So both Malavika and Michael have something that they would like to share with us at their presentations. So keep that in mind. All right. And now, without further ado, I typically have been, you know, reading off the introduction list for from the Zoom meetings with introducing the presenters, but I don't want to seem robotic as I'm reading them, so I'm just going to like pass off the mic again. So I think we'll have Rebecca. Are you fine with going first? Is that fine?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, everyone, welcome, Rebecca. You have the floor.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me. I've been watching the salons, and I'm just really thrilled and amazed with all the work. And I was so glad to find this group of people because of the stuff I'm doing and, being able to be with other artists doing this kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is click through some of my work and let you know who I am. And then I'm going to go right into my virtual reality paintings, which is the new thing I've been doing. And then at the very end, I have a little short little demo that will actually show you how I paint. So let me start off saying that I don't have any credentials. I have no training. I don't know what I'm doing. But I've been painting and drawing and sculpting and everything all my life. About 10 years ago, I started putting my stuff into the galleries here in Kansas City. It's a real art town, and I started selling stuff. I started getting some awards, and just having fun, and joined some plein air groups where the real artists are. So I hang out with a lot of people that are very traditional artists, and you'll see my style, I just kind of made it up. So I'll just start in with that. And this is, let's see, I got to share screen too, so hold on a sec.
By the way, folks, I know it goes without saying, but please keep your questions and mic muted during the duration of the presentation. You can feel free to leave your questions in the chat if you feel the need to, so you don't lose your thought. But yeah,
Okay.
yeah, just be respectful.
Are you seeing a 7-Eleven?
Yep, seeing it.
Okay. Okay, so this is going to sound weird, and I don't normally share this, but I'm going to share it with you guys because I know you won't laugh too hard. I started about 10 years ago. I had a dream that I was painting with calligraphy pens and ink, and it was so vivid that the next day I went out to a craft store and I got a bunch of calligraphy pens and ink. And as soon as I started, whirling my hands around, it was like, wow, this is me. And so this is something I've been doing for, about 10 years. I call them inkings because they're kind of ink and painting. So this is a 7-Eleven. This is plein air stuff I do. This is a guy fishing on the river. I started adding some brushes with the pens, and I use my ink straight on. I don't mix any colors because I really don't know how. Don't know about mediums, all that kind of stuff. So I just paint right out of the bottle. This is the skyline of Kansas City. And you can see I'm using brush and the calligraphy pens. And I started adding fluorescent airbrush ink because I just like the colors. This is probably as realistic as I get. Then I started doing murals. This is me in the backyard. This is 12 foot long. This was a commission. And I just kind of, again, made it up as I went along and thinking this was going to be a one-time thing. But when companies saw this, I started getting commissions for these gigantic murals. And this is just a big roll of watercolor paper. I just rolled it out, put some rocks on it, and started painting on it. So this is a 15-foot mural I did for a company. And this was right before the pandemic. This was the very last thing I had done. So then the pandemic hit. And it really made me depressed. So I started painting snow fences. I don't know why. I painted 300 or so of these. I just couldn't paint in color. Then I started doing, this is my granddaughter with a firefly.
Oh, Rebecca?
Yeah.
Are you showing new images or are you still showing the mural? It's
no.
not showing the new, oh.
Let me go back, okay.
Yeah, because it's still showing the mural.
Do you see snow fence now? Let me click. How about now?
You might just need to reshare the screen.
There. Snow fence?
Not yet.
How about now?
Go back to the Zoom window and re-click the share screen button
Okay.
and make sure you're sharing screen 1.
Oops.
Yeah, you could just minimize that. Yep,
How about
there we
that?
go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go, snow fence. I started painting snow fences and I did about 300 and something of these things. And then I started painting my granddaughter with a firefly, all black and white. I couldn't paint with color mentally. Then I started doing horses for some reason and followed with ballerinas. Whoops. And so this is where I'm at now. So I'm back to horses, but they're in color and they're moving around a little bit. Now this will kind of go into the VR painting when we get into it. So at the same time during the pandemic, my granddaughter, just as a way for us to do stuff together, she started playing, she taught me how to play video games, which I, hadn't done for a long time. So let's see. Are you seeing a spider? This is me being the spider after earning 10,000 or so points in Roblox. Around Christmas time, this is me. I was buying accessories and clothes for my avatar and really got into it. And so about that time, the Oculus and the virtual reality things were coming out. So my daughter gave me that so I could do virtual reality with my granddaughter. And so we were doing that. She was teaching me. And she said, I think there's a painting app. And so I went into that. And it was like, sometimes, as an artist, you stumble into something and it just really clicks. Well, that's how it was for me. And this is the very first. Are you seeing this?
Yep.
Okay. This is the very first virtual reality painting I did. And I'm actually walking through my painting. And this is, I showed you my Kansas City landscape because that's what this is. I did a Kansas City landscape. And this one, I actually got into a show with the International Society of Experimental Artists. This was accepted into a show that's going to be going on in September. Ever since I started doing this, I tried to get my virtual reality paintings submitted to the traditional galleries and was really having a hard time. Because I would send a still photo and say, well, if somebody, quote, buys the painting, I will send them a link and they can walk through the painting themselves. But unless you kind of do it, it maybe doesn't make enough sense. And also I said, rather than do like an NFT, which I haven't really gotten a hold of that completely just yet. I thought instead of, somebody owning it outright for money, why not share it with everybody? Because anytime I send a link, it's like everybody has not a copy or a print, they have an exact original. And so, for $1, everybody can own their own painting. Nobody's bought a link yet though. Okay, this is another one where I took one of my sketches of a flower and I uploaded it into the program and then I painted on top of it. And what was cool about this was, I'm going to kind of fast forward through it. You can go above and below a plane, and in this case, the plane is my own sketch. So again, I was just making it up and putting my own sketch in there. It was kind of like my reference material, but it was, it's really cool when you can paint something and then walk through it. And the program here, you can see it's Gravity Sketch, and it is free. It's typically used by people that are designing cars and shoes and, you know, things like that. But I think it's totally suited for fine artists. And that's, I've been trying to get all my friends, you know, fine artists to jump into some of these programs that were not meant for us. And I post all these things on the Gravity Sketch community pages too, because, you know, they're painting a lot of the stuff they do too are for gaming. But, you know, I think it's just fabulous for fine artists. There's just an infinite space there. And it's, for me, I found it very freeing and easy to do. Now here's one where I didn't use reference material. I just started doing some abstract stuff and ended up making all these circles and then walking through them. This is called Thoughts and Feelings. And oh, the last one of the ballerina, I did get that into a traditional gallery just recently for the $1 link, although nobody's bought one yet. Okay. And this is my latest one, and this is for, I've got this submitted, it hasn't been accepted yet. This has been the most, I don't know, more intricate, time-consuming one that I've done. This is my own photo, and then I painted on top of it. It's the Flint Hills of Kansas, which is this natural prairie. And I was trying to create the feeling of vastness of a prairie out there, and I painted this on the photo and then I deconstructed it, because in this program you can grab a hold of things and move sections. You can grab a hold of things and just instantly change colors. And for me, a person that does a lot of scribbling, it's so responsive. And I think too that even though it's kind of an artificial environment, I think the human hand and the, you know, that part of art still comes through. So anyway, I'm gonna kind of forward through this a little bit more. There's my cow. But I don't know if it's, I'm gonna walk through this photo and go to the other side. And I'm hoping that this, you know, gives you the feeling of, you know, space and time and vastness of the Flint Hills. Well, let me go a little bit further. And these are actual, you know, I'm recording myself walking through this, but in reality, there's, you know, I've got a headset on and I'm in the back bedroom walking in a little space of maybe 3 by 3. But I have the feeling that I'm walking through this painting. And so like in the background there, that's like, you know, the Flint Hills. Okay. So now, okay, now this is, oh, I started doing horses, of course. I think I'm up to the demo. Yeah. Okay, so this is, if you were actually in Gravity Sketch, you would have a clipboard and you've got, you know, the hand things, and you can click on these different things. You can upload your own pictures, photos, and there I'm going to use one of my paint inkings as reference material. I'm going to expand it so I can see better. And this, you're seeing a warehouse space, but there's all, you can customize your own space. You can just have a white space, blue space, any kind of space you can imagine. There's the color wheel, which I really love because you see how quickly I can move and choose colors. And there I'm actually painting on top of it. I'm going to go through this a little bit more. You can also, there's like a reflective material. There's a fluorescent, a flat, and a clay color. You can see how I paint there. Okay. And then I think here in a second, I'm going to grab a hold of something and pull it out. Yeah, I'm going to remove my reference material, and there is the 3D virtual reality. There, and see how I can expand it, larger, smaller. Now I'm going to deconstruct it. I can pull things out. It also has an undo button that you can undo anything, clear back to the beginning. You can rotate it. And there I'm going to put kind of put it back together, because I think sometimes if you have something flat, you can see what you've done. I'm saving it. You can export it. You can live stream your painting. You can post it anywhere. You know, as you would with any video, you can do stuff with the virtual reality. So that's kind of what I'm doing in the back bedroom. So that's kind of the end of my thing.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Rebecca. I actually empathize with the way you started too, because again, no formal tutelage or anything like that. And funnily enough, the first thing I started creating with my artwork early on, like last year, were something that I called ink plays, because I was using a like expanded Chrome ink pen in the software that I was using. So I was like, I know that feeling. So
yeah. Oh, I do want to say that I recently joined the International Society of Experimental Artists, and there's many artists there. They have like 400 members, and so many of them are doing things that would fit in the movement. And I posted this invitation on there. So I think there's a lot of people that might be interested in this.
Gotcha. Also, you don't have anything else to share with your screen right now, do you?
No.
All right. I will go ahead and there we go.
Okay.
All right. Now, let's open up the floor for discussion. And let's see. Somebody was asking if you use tilt brush, but we already answered what you're using. It's called a gravity brush, correct?
It's called Gravity Sketch. I have
Gravity
looked at
Sketch.
tilt brush, and there's another one I'm using. I'm probably not using the right term. I'm like an early adapter of painting VR. They're still working it, and I think it's $9.99. I kind of like that. Tilt brush, is okay, but Gravity Sketch for me just seems more suited for fine artists.
Gotcha. Oh, by the way, folks, if you do have any questions, feel free to use the raise hand functionality or reaction with Zoom. so we can get to you in order. Oh, or Lee can raise his actual hand.
I would use the hand thing if I could find it on my screen. My question is, when you make those freehand sketches and then you float around in them using that program, is it possible for you to stop and sort of capture one particular perspective and then make a print of it?
Yes, yes, you can, while you're in there, you can take a screenshot or snapshot, a little camera will pop up and you can take a picture of anything you want and export that, and yes, make a print of anything. The only problem that I've seen with that, and I tried to do that at first, is the spatialness of virtual reality just doesn't translate to 2D very well. Like, it's just so flat, and that's why I started making the videos. And at first I was just, you can sit in a chair and do this. I'd just be sitting and I would rotate my objects, and still it was like, it looks like a sculpture or something. So when I actually stood up and started walking, through it and around it and everything, that's when I started getting the same feeling in the videos that I get when I'm in this program. So the answer is yes.
I think a lot of the sketchy kind of shapes that you're making don't seem to have any dimension. It's like when you float around in them and you get to the side of them, there isn't anything there. It's like a thin piece of paper. It's only when you keep moving, then you see the back side of it. They have a front and a back and no side. So anytime you stop it and take a picture of it and then print it, it's always going to look flat. You'd have to give some dimension to some of those shapes in order to capture the feeling that there's a volume of space that these things are in.
I totally agree. I've only been doing this since about December, and I'm still struggling with that aspect of it, because unless you have the goggles on yourself, you don't have the full experience of it. And until, I think it seems like the Oculus, and I could be wrong about this, is like an early Atari game, like it's so new, and there's a lot of people that have it and play games, but I think there's a whole different application for this. I even think, I have a relative who's an artist who has trouble with her hands. She can't hold the things like she used to. The hand the things, you don't even have to use those. There's a pass-through where just your hand now can paint, and you can be sitting, and you saw at the end where I could expand it and contract it. Like, there's very little physical movement that actually has to happen to create this great stuff. Now, I scribble, but I can imagine artists doing things way beyond what I'm doing, because they just, they have the wherewithal and know what they're doing, and also I've barely imported anything or uploaded anything. You could take something, I was thinking of taking a real painting and then, trying to incorporate it more and not just having the VR stuff on top of a painting. So yeah. I'm very open to suggestions.
Well, there's a lot of the 3D imitizing of Van Gogh paintings. That's very popular. The image floats into the painting and around, and you can see the other side of the tree and more of the path and all this other stuff. I'm not sure that I would encourage you to do that, because it's not you. It's not your expression. I think it's much more interesting to encourage you to keep playing with your freehand scribbles, because they have a lot of energy in them and a feeling of life to them. And if you can figure out how to use that program to capture that in some kind of way that then can be presented, or you can see where I'm from. I'm old school. I keep coming back to the people who come into the gallery and see this and then want to take something with them. You know, taking an NFT isn't going to get it for these people at all. You have to figure out some way for them to be able to buy a print at least.
Some artists have actually gotten the habit of actually selling an Oculus loaded with the artwork so that they could experience the whole thing at home, which isn't an option for everyone, but it is a thing that some people are doing.
That was a suggestion. I don't think that's too far off because the Oculus is $400, and that's not expensive for, you know, painting. And then once you have that, it's yours. You can, you know, do all the games, and you can paint yourself and do all that kind of stuff. So that is an option. And one thing that is limiting with the gravity sketch is, and I asked them if they would do this, and they're not doing it yet. I would like a brush function. Right now, I have only lines to work with, and I can make the lines bigger, smaller. The lines can respond to pressure or speed, different things like that. But I don't have a, you know, I'd like to have a brush function. But they're saying, you know, if you, this is the comments from the community page. Well, if you want brushes, go to, you know, this, or go to the graffiti spray. Like there's other programs that have that stuff. But I'm hoping they'll put a brush in there.
Oh boy. All right, you got essentially 5 questions, I think, lined up. We have one in the chat from earlier, which we've kind of already answered from Cynthia Rubin, but she wants to know, do you need a gaming interface to use it? And I think it's just it's an Oculus only app, correct?
That's correct. Gravity Sketch is free. Tilt Brush, I think, is $20. They're all inexpensive. It's just the Oculus itself. Oh,
and
but
does it have
Oculus? Go ahead.
Do you know if it has functionality with like drawing tablets, like Wacom's and things like that? I know Wacom itself has their own like software that they use for VR stuff, but I'm not sure if Oculus natively can interact with a Wacom tablet.
I don't know that one in particular, and there are some that won't operate with the Oculus. There was, you know, something else, but there are. Right now, there's just a couple of or the Gravity Sketch, and the Tilt Brush, and then the thing I'm doing, which is nothing but brushes.
Right.
That I'm aware of.
All right. Does that answer your question, Cynthia, well enough? Trying to actually find your.
Here I am. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm in my co-working space, so I'm back.
That's all good.
So yes, you answered the question. Thank you.
All right, good to go.
Okay.
All right, next up we have Renata.
Thank you, Rebecca. I really enjoyed your presentation. I was wondering about the part where you showed the drawing of the flower, the rose, with the gray line and then the flat white. When you did the demo, there was no ground behind your painting, but when you showed the flower drawing, that white platform to me was the ground. Now, can that be tilted in any way? I mean, I'm just.
Yes, yes. You can change. You can tilt it any way you want, and that's why I put that in there to give some sense of, you know, where you're at, you know, in there. So yes, you can move everything around in infinite ways.
Great. Now, the second question might have to do somehow with Zoom more than anything, because the resolution gets dumbed down a lot. So when I looked at your painting demo, it wasn't very sharp. But when I looked at the photograph of the Kansas foothills, that drawing and some of the other drawings that you showed earlier were in focus more. So what would you say about the resolution?
Okay, it's not coming through here. If you go to my website or my Facebook page, like, and you looked at the same things, it's real sharp. Like you would see sharp lines.
Right.
So it's just not coming through. And then if you were actually in the thing itself, it's so sharp that you feel like you can touch it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's really, really enjoyable to hear your talk.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Renata. Next up, we have Michael Price.
Hi, Rebecca. Thanks
Hey.
for your presentation. I think a number of people have mentioned the loose brush strokes in your 2D work. It's very, very beautiful and dynamic. Different than Matisse, but it reminded me of just how simple brush strokes can create really powerful imagery and evoke emotion. So kudos to your non-training and your natural abilities and your tenacity to work like this.
Thank you.
So for me, the 3D VR feels a little like deja vu for me personally, just because of my gaming history and background. But here's the challenge: as working in a 3D environment, as games being designers, but also as artists, is there's a profound difference between a flat 2D space. Since we are three-dimensional beings, we can see the entirety of everything on in a two-dimensional plane. And I think piggybacking a little bit on what Lee was talking about earlier is that there's two parts to my question. What has drawn you into this personally as a person and an artist to completely explore this? But then how do you see your challenge of, in a 3D space, yes, you get that sense of, wow, I'm inside of this. But if you look at movies, if you look at games, you're creating a facade, because the thing is, with movies, you're always curating where the camera is. So you can have, the Western town where everything's, just looks like facades in front of you, and your mind thinks, oh, this is a full thing. But now here, you can see all the ugliness. You can see the things, like Lee was saying, when you start to walk around, everything all of a sudden disappears. And so I guess as an artist, do you find that a challenge? Do you think that's just part of the experience? And for me, that's the part I think that I have stayed away from that as an artist, because of you lose that sense of where you want somebody to understand where the heart and soul of it is. And if you're thinking that whole totality is the embodiment of what you did, then then that's important, and I can respect that. But for me, having previously worked in VR like that, it's really, really challenging. And I think that's the part right now that can be really tough to handle. And I'm just kind of curious, just sort of your feedback on my comments and just what's drawn you into this, because I think it's really fascinating to see where you sort of started from and how this during the pandemic kind of brought you in. I'm just kind of curious how that came about.
I guess I had this moment the first time I even made the first stroke within VR. It was like, oh, this is me, this is it, and I was electrified. And and each time I go in and do something, I'm learning, and oh, I can do this, I can tilt the, like the other lady was talking about, oh, I can move this around. And so I'm constantly feeling the same way. And I also feel like if I could get more volume into my strokes, if I had a brush, not just lines, so I tried using shapes. There are already pre-made shapes that I can, pull in and paint and all that, but they look so like clip art. And so I completely stayed away from that and decided, if I can't do it myself, draw it or use one of my own paintings, I'm not going to use those shapes and everything. So yeah, I'm really struggling with a lot of it. And I also struggle with, even when I'm showing you guys, it's a whole different thing if you put on the goggles and you open up my thing like I'm doing the video, so I'm walking through it. If you open it up, you would see one solid thing, and then you would walk through it or turn to the right or to the left. You would think, oh my gosh, I think I can grab this. It's such a real experience. And when the Van Gogh thing is in Kansas City right now. And so I'm seeing, you know, all that stuff in the commercials. I'm thinking, this is like what I'm trying to, like an immersion. Like I feel like I'm not good enough of an artist within this sphere yet to create that, but like the thoughts and feelings, the circles, when I'm trying to
You're not, but you're not alone.
Nope.
I mean, seriously, this is a challenge for VR and 3D. So
yeah.
the Van Gogh, it's coming to Phoenix, and I haven't seen other than the commercials, but it's still going to be highly curated. I mean, you're not going to have the same kind of thing of being able to walk into a corner where all of a sudden there's nothing there. So what I'm saying is, what they've done is a high-end production that nobody can really compete with, because unless you got a few $1 million to put together something like this, you're just not going to be able to compete. So, but anyway,
let me tell you this too. This is another thing I've been, I know some of we have, I think 200 little galleries here in Kansas City. And I've been trying to convince them to open the first VR gallery, which all I need is a closet or, a little back room or something, because I said, I will supply this, and, you don't have to do anything. It's not going to cost you anything, but we can be the first. And I want people to experience this, because I think for other artists may want to do it, but other people that are not in art may be inspired. But it's just such a neat experience. But so far I haven't got any takers. And so I'm not, I thought, well, maybe I can get a grant and do it myself, but I am not a museum curator, and, it's beyond, I think, my abilities. But that's where I think something like this could happen. And I've seen on the West Coast, there is somebody that did that, and they have a VR gallery, and their artists, and they show there's just this blank room, empty room. And they've got it much more polished, and the artwork is much more complicated than mine. The thing I so appreciate being able to join this group is I do feel that I have emotion and energy in my artwork, so it fit within your the mission statement.
Yeah.
So, and again, like I said, I've been doing 6-7 months. So I just feel like I'm gonna, I want to keep going down this path, and see where it takes me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all your comments. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. All right, we have 2 more questions, and then after that, we gotta get into the next presentation really quick.
Sure, I'll shut up.
Sorry. No, it's fine. I'm just trying to be conscious of
Absolutely.
our time and
Yes.
whatnot. All right, so Tommy, you're up. Now you've been waiting patiently. You muted. Still muted.
I found it. I'm so sorry. The screen was all weird.
All good.
First of all, thank you, Rebecca, for sharing your work. It's really fantastic. One of the things that jumped out to me was your snow fences, or whatever you're calling that series.
Yes.
And I looked at your website and checked out some of them, and it seemed to be, in those images, you're creating a space with just very simple lines.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be an approach that would work well within this new space. If you're talking about like creating a sense of space, look to what you've already done. I think in a very interesting way, you could already have solved that problem. I think creating an object, as everybody's talking about, with flat panes that you sort of walk around and there's no depth to it, I think is a different challenge than creating a space that you sort of see and navigate. Because you kind of want to navigate in this VR space, I feel. And there's a stark quality that I think is native to that digital that you capture so beautifully in those snow fences. So I know that I come in from the opposite, where I just look at a lot of art books. I grew up in libraries in the art section. So when I look at your work, I think of, and museums, Alexander Calder and the wire sculptures that he makes. He did this, Calder, C-A-L-D-E-R, is a famous American sculptor who has a sculpture at the Whitney Museum, always maybe, of a circus made out of wire that he used to move, and it would like do little things. It's actually, sort of a mechanical movement thing that he designed. I think you might love it. And there's other artists that sort of look to that wire. And I think if you're looking in the VR space, you're sort of working with a virtual wire almost with your painting. So it might be an interesting kind of parallel. And when you think about like VR spaces, by the way, I don't want to go on a rant about the Van Gogh thing on while I'm being recorded, but it's not anything new, right? So if you want to think about interesting stuff happening in spaces, I think there's a group called Team Lab, Teamlab, out of Japan, that's doing amazing things that are new within the digital and VR space, that are like experimenting with this idea of being in a VR space instead of taking something familiar and in public domain and repackaging it and making it really, I mean, go to the Museum of Illusions. There's all this for-profit museum model of business that's happening right now that Van Gogh is touching on, and it's not really art. That's anything new. Yayoi Kusama, Kusama. If you ever see her work shown anywhere, go see it. Kusama, it's a space she creates lots of things, but paintings too. You can see her paintings, but she also has these spaces, architectural spaces, that you enter into and are in another world, essentially. And I think there's a lot of parallels with what we're doing in these VR spaces that some sculptors have played with already and given us really interesting ideas to play with. So but Rebecca, your work is so great. Like, it's really fun to look at and exciting to.
Thank you. I had a little video of a snow fence, me actually painting the snow fence in the VR space, and I thought, no, this is too boring. I'm not going to show them this. But because when what you said, I'm going to go back and look at that again. I thought it was not enough, just the snow fence, but I'll revisit it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Tommy. And last question for Rebecca at this time goes to Colin.
Hey, Rebecca. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and showing your work and sharing it with the group. It's really interesting to see how you came into working with technology and your background. Prior to that with traditional media, and it's funny that you mentioned Roblox. We have a 7-year-old, and she's commandeered both my old iPad and my wife's old iPad, and she's now addicted to she'll be FaceTiming with her 9 or 10-year-old cousin at the same time that they're both in Roblox. And she's explaining to me all of this stuff about Roblox, and it's like mind-boggling that here's the 7-year-old completely engrossed in this virtual world while simultaneously video conferencing with her 9-year-old cousin. This is
that's what I did. That's what she was doing with me.
When I was her age, that was science fiction that I fantasized about. But and then so I've also played around. I have an Oculus that my wife actually got me, an Oculus over the holidays as a present. And one of the big reasons that I got it was for art apps, specifically at that time Tiltbrush, which I hadn't even known about, the Gravity Sketch app. I think that might have recently become a free app. I think it was a paid app originally.
It was.
But one thing that I found with Tiltbrush was that I'm primarily a 2D artist, painting background originally before I started really getting involved in digital stuff. And so it was interesting. It really felt like I was creating sculpture when I first started working with Tiltbrush. That is, being able to move around to the side of the piece and then draw another stroke that's sort of on a different axis and then walk completely around the piece. And it was very liberating because I never really got involved working sculpturally. Like, I was never, I just always felt like, well, there's all this training involved and materials. Like, I'm not that interested. I can't, conceive of a time when I would really be able to execute my vision in a way that I could on a flat plane, but I think VR kind of gave me that, and I haven't really gone much beyond just experimentation with it, but I felt like that was a real kind of a breakthrough moment. And, the real value for me wasn't what was created at the end of it. It was the experience of actually going in and making things in 3D space with my hands, which was like pretty amazing, totally worth the price of admission as far as I'm concerned. I got the Quest 2 and yeah, I play, use it a little bit for gaming, but I mean, really, like, I think just the experience of being able to paint in a 3D space in that way is pretty remarkable. And so, like, my actual question is, when you talk about sharing links, like, are you able to share a link to the actual piece that someone else with an Oculus can then go in and experience? And if that's the case, do they experience it in the app that you created it in, or like, how does that work? And sort of a piggyback question to that is there a sort of a place where artists share their VR pieces for other people with goggles so that you can go in and like check out other people's creations,
Yes, within Gravity Sketch is a gallery.
Okay.
And you can, open up, I mean, there's tons and tons of stuff. I will say most of it is cars and avatars and shoes and things like that. And I'm always pushing for, this is a place for fine art. And yes, I have two sons who are, longtime programmers and everything. And I had the discussion about, does my painting actually exist? Or is it? So they explained to me, how it actually does exist. And this is based on what they told me, but they said that every time I send a link, like I could send you a link to the original, you also now have the original. It's not a copy. It's not a duplicate. It is actually the exact original, and you can have as many originals as possible. And the landing pad is, you probably know that from Gravity Sketch. There's a, and all you need is a email. So that's the other thing, like, if and I put my prices as $1 just to see if people would, just for the fun of it, try it out.
Yeah, I would encourage you to post links to we have a Facebook group and also a Discord server and, a bunch of different other social
you're in Discord,
channels.
okay.
So like if you guys, and you or anyone else, like, has work that can be experienced through like Oculus or different other platforms, that's certainly like a good place to share it, as well as obviously links to any kind of web-based projects or whatnot. But yeah, it'd be cool to check that out. And yeah, I know Darcy had posted, had shared, when she came on here about having like a virtual space and maybe trying to even organize meetups, within that sort of environment, which I think would be interesting.
Well, within
sure.
Oculus now, actually within Oculus, well, you probably know this even better than I do. There are rooms where you can do exactly what you're talking about, where we could all be in the same room and experience these things.
Right.
Yeah, and even within Gravity Sketch, you can work with another artist at the same time on the same thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, I briefly went into one of those sort of VR environments, and there was all sorts of strange creatures walking around talking to me that were actual people behind them.
That's true. That's true. But I think you can get your own. You can make your own for free.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, thank you, Colin, and thank you, Rebecca, and thank you for your presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for giving me a lot of great ideas too, all of you.
That's also what we're here for. This is as much as a collaborative space as it is just supportive space.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oop, almost dropped my phone. All right. Okay, so thank you for that. And now we have our second presentation for today by Cynthia. Are you here, Cynthia?
Yes, I am.
All right. Are you ready to present?
I'm ready to present.
All right, you have the floor.
Great. I want to thank Rebecca for her presentation. as Davo said, support and collaboration is what this group is about. I can't say enough about how humble I am to be part of the group. I remember when Colin sent me a direct message through Instagram, and at first I thought it was, you know, how they always ask you, do you want to have 1,000 followers, or, you know, come to my gallery? And so I just assumed that, you know, this is what was going on. And so Colin smartly included a link to the Techspressionist website, and you know, said check it out. And so I did, and I was frankly, I was blown away. I went and listened to the earlier salons. I also checked out some of the artists that were listed, the manifesto, and I said, this is wow. I found my tribe.
Yes.
So again, I can't say enough about the group, and I certainly want to thank Colin and Davo and others who have been involved, who I'm not naming, for doing this and making this happen. It's a very special place. So with having said that, I will go on to talk about me. First of all, I'm probably one of the older people here on Zoom. And I'm back in the day when there was no technology. And I was a secondary educator for 30 years, who also minored in art. Eventually I became certified to teach art. And art was always, you know, in my world, but not until I retired from teaching did I really get serious about my own art. Prior to my retirement, 10 years before that, I became one of the first educators to work with technology in education. And technology was a real natural for me. I would, be talking to the boys in the class, because a lot of the girls weren't very interested, at least the girls in my orbit, in technology, and the boys, of course, were. So with that, I'll go on to 11 years ago, I started working with Water Media. And maybe this is a good time to share my work. Okay.
Yep, feel free.
Okay, share. Ready. Okay, it's coming. Can you see my iPad screen?
Yep, we can see it, or at
Great.
least I can.
All right, because everyone else can see it, hopefully.
Yep.
All right, let me start with my Water Media work. And I work primarily at this time with Water Media on Mylar. And that's what you see here. These are quite large pieces, maybe 24 by 36. And again, I worked on watercolor, Mylar, also on TerraSkin and Yupo. Yupo is a polypropylene paper that you can take away and subtract paint from. TerraSkin is also a polypropylene paper, but there's stone that's ground into it, and it's somewhat toothy. And so these pieces I was able to work on these papers. So this is, where I started before digital art grabbed my attention. And of course, Water Media is still very, very important to me. This is one of my later pieces in Water Media. Here's another piece. This is ink and Water Media and acrylic. Again, this would be water media, watercolor, and Caran d'Ache. This is one that I completed this summer, Sargasso Sea. This is on Terraskin, which is that rock embedded in polypropylene paper. And the same thing here, this is deforestation. I very often like to deal with environmental concerns, and this was one piece that deals with that. So leaving water media 6 years ago, I got myself an iPad, and then eventually I got an iPad Pro, and I got an Apple Pencil. And one of the first apps that I worked with was years ago, Art Rage. And you could, you know, I had a PC, I could use the program on the PC, and eventually I could use it on the iPad. But when I was working on the PC, I either had to have a mouse or I had to have a stylus on a tablet. And I did that for a bit, wasn't crazy about it. But eventually, when I went to work digitally on my iPad, I found an app that I absolutely loved called Procreate. And Procreate resembles in a lot of ways Photoshop, but it's much more user-friendly. And so I got involved with that, and I began painting using a stylus, Apple Pencil, and I could work right on the screen, which was like working directly on paper. And that caught more of my attention than if I was going to use a stylus on a tablet and work on a desktop. So not only that, I could use my finger. More often than not, I use my fingers as well as a stylus to paint. So these pieces I'm showing you now are done entirely in Procreate, and also in another app. By the way, Procreate's like $9.99. iColorama is the other app I like to work in. That was $6.99. And so I bring things in and out of these two apps, but there are other apps that I work in as well. But primarily, I'm working in Procreate and iColorama. So this piece here was done where I applied paint using my Apple Pencil to create the image. Same thing is true here with this piece. And also here. Some of these I've named, others I haven't. And again, this is only in Procreate. I was playing with the brushes. The brushes in Procreate are incredible, not to mention what you can get out there and download. But this was essentially a brush. I played with brushes. Here again, I played with brushes, and I also, you can create your own brush in Procreate, as you can in Photoshop, and had great fun with that. Here again, I worked with brushes again to create this image, and this was done again only in Procreate. And over here, this is the brush I created, and then echoed it throughout the piece. Again, this one, I love the title. There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold. And again, this was done both in Procreate and iColorama. This one is called Entanglement. I'm very fascinated by quantum mechanics as a layperson. I don't have any physics background, but I love that. Again, these were all done as paint in Procreate and iColorama. Go back here. Then I have very much love trees and their importance in our environment. So I did a whole tree series. And the thing that was so much fun about the tree series is I took some photographs. Now this is the other way I work. I take photographs. The photograph could be of a shingle on the house, could be a piece of metal. In this case, I took a photograph of some trees. And then within iColorama, I am able to compose sections and then introduce in those sections textures from either other photographs or other pieces of my digital art. So if you look up in this section where I have, can you see my cursor? I have, this is a piece that I've done in the past, and I inserted it into this piece in this section, and it may be somewhere else here. I don't know, I guess not. Maybe here, here it is. Here it is again. And then I had some other piece of a photograph, again, that I had brought into iColorama and created a texture with it, and I inserted it here, here, and through these lines. And so when this happened for me, I was set off and continued with the trees. So this is another tree image, again with introducing textures in different areas. And by using some filters and other programs, I was able to come up with this, what I call a marvelous turquoise that I absolutely love. Here's another tree. This is called Tree Talk at Sunset, which kind of has an Asian sensibility that I love about it. And again, I did a similar thing. As you can see, these textures I was able to insert in the program iColorama. And some of the textures are other pieces of digital art that I've done that I saw a relationship with into this piece. And again, it continues, more trees, more insertion. I'm a person that was very steeped in textiles for at least, well, probably 45, 50 years. I spin wool from sheep and alpaca, and I also knit, and I do a bit of weaving. And so textiles are important to me, and I love the texture. So I got that, you know, that sense I've embedded in my work. And it continues, this almost has a tapestry sense. Again, began with trees. Again, more trees. And this, I just got involved with some couple of branches this time, and again, inserted these textures. The tree. Tree Talk and at the golden hour. Can spring be far away? And this is one of my newest pieces called Totem that deals with you know, some tree aspects. And again, I have inserted textures from other pieces of my artwork. In fact, you'll see this piece later on. I've inserted here, which looks nothing like the original, but some of the texture has appeared and it's repeated. And here, so you've got all of these textures, and that, again, I really enjoy doing this. That's the end of trees. And I'll bring you to my landscapes. I very much am interested in landscapes of the mind. And these come from intuition, memory. So here are, again, some of the pieces, again, made in Procreate and iColorama primarily. This was originally a photograph of, you know, when you have daylilies and they're dying, and the pieces of neutral colored leaves that are left behind. I took that picture, and again, if you'll notice, this picture has been mixed with that piece. And there's in iColorama, I'm able to mix and blend two together. And when in the past, some of you talked about algorithmic art. play form and being able to run through a number of your pieces together, I'm able to do that with more control in my own apps that I have. So these are the two pieces. One is embedded in the other and mixed. Again, here's another piece. I think I called that Sunstorm. This one is Beware the Goblins. Again, I've mixed together two pieces of digital art. Here it is again, that if you see this here was in an earlier piece when I was talking about the daylilies. And so I've mixed probably 3 or 4 pieces here together. This is Pan's Labyrinth. Originally, this was a collage. I also do collage on occasion, and I like the collage, the colors, and this is another way that I work with digital art, is to take my present traditional or analog art and then introduce that into the art programs and then play around with that. And so again, I got, you know, another landscape, and again, the texture really drives me in these pieces. Here's another, this is when I was starting to move toward my sculptural pieces because I began placing pieces like this, but eventually I isolated them, as you'll see. There's another piece, again, mixing several pieces of digital art. This one's called Equus. This one, believe it or not, started as 2 shingles on the side of my house that were badly in need of a paint job. That's how I started with that. And this gold here was actually the shadow of one shingle lying next to another. And through the use of color and manipulation, as you can see here in Procreate, I can manipulate pieces of design so that they are warped. This one is To Be a Rock and Not to Roll. That's my time, my salad days, if you will. Okay, that's the end of that series. And then I'm very interested in figurative work. And a lot of this was done during the lockdown. And again, using the 2 programs I've been mentioning. This is Don't Look Back. Also, I was taken with what was going on at the border. And so some of these pieces were inspired by that. This one's Get Out the Vote. This one is La Immigrante. And again, the border crossings. This was done by taking 2 photographs that I manipulated. And then within iColorama, I can wipe out part. This was once a whole image, and I wiped out this with my Apple Pencil, and I was left with this. And a lot of times when I play like this, things will occur. And this happened. It's just fortuitous, and I went with it. Here's another mixing of images. This one's called Looking Upward. This is called Persistence. Again, the lockdown, the border crossings. This is a mix of a photograph in the background that was taken with an app called Paper Camera. And then I, again, in another piece, wiped out this shape. And again, this figure emerged. Again, mixing, this is shadows at play. This is, I'm mixing again, several images. This is called Dance. And I can't tell you how I made this. It happened. Sometimes that happens where you just don't remember how it came to be. So Davo shaking his head, thank you. I guess I'm not the only one. Here's another, again, mixing of images. It's called Strolling Through the Woods during the lockdown. This piece is called Loss. Again, a piece during the lockdown. Here's another way I work. I also do figure drawing. And sometimes I try to do figure drawing in watercolor, which is a challenge. Well, I wasn't happy with the watercolor, so I said, I'm going to bring that into Procreate and iColorama. And so this piece was born called Glossy. Again, mixing figurative drawing and photography and manipulation. More of that. These are all actual live models from my figure drawing sessions. And here's the piece that was embedded in that earlier totem piece. This is, again, something I'm able to do in iColorama. It's a linear filter. It also, when I'm in this filter, I can go to Kino Glitch, which some of you probably know about, that you're able to move things around and also add textures to them. This is Birdman. This is a series, this is an app, and I can't remember the name of it. I have to go see if I can find it in future because I really love it, which allows you to go through a number of images, playing one after the other to see which images you like. And eventually this came up. So it's a figurative piece. There's somewhat, I don't know, bird-like shape there, and again, lots of textures. So that's the end of that. And then I began getting involved with sculptural work. And that's what I very much enjoyed Renata's presentation because some of her pieces are sculptural, and also she's worked with the iPad and some of the apps. So I got excited. I said, oh, someone else is working in this area, and I was able to download some of the apps that she talked about. So this is called Labyrinth. This was a shingle. I think you can tell. This is called Ground Control to Major Tom. And again, I was able to manipulate the shingle to the shape. Here's another that was actually the floor of some store. This started with paper camera and then pulled it through iColorama, and then also Procreate allowed me to move the shape, this shape right here. Again, these are some of these are lockdown pieces. This one suggests a mood. And originally this was a photograph of some metal. Forgotten what I did to make this happen. Here's another one with some metal, again, feeling of depression, being forlorn during the epidemic. This is again more sculpture, and then I started playing with how to move the shapes, and I came up with all of these different, and this is very often what I do. I'll make like 10 of these and decide which one do I want to show. So I'm able to move things around. This was just a brush stroke that I took out of Procreate and manipulated. Very simple. This one, again, was, believe it or not, a picture of a blind, a Venetian blind that I was able to manipulate. And then I got into multiple repeating shapes. And again, this is fabric. This was a picture of some fabric that I fell in love with the print. And then I brought it into Procreate, and manipulated it. And then eventually I brought it into iColorama. So I began moving, and this, maybe this was, we were emerging from the first lockdown, and I had this kind of feeling of freedom. This is fabric again. This is, again, playing with one brush in Procreate and manipulating the brush strokes. This is called Breathe. Okay. This is what I'm working on lately. I'm working with a slow shutter app. Obviously, you can use slow shutter in manual cameras, I'm sure in SLRs. This is an app that you have on your phone. And I was able to, by mixing together pieces, create these pieces here. This one's called Route 66. And it actually was a slow shutter shot at one point of a car. This is a slow shutter of my husband walking with my granddaughter that I was able to manipulate. This is my granddaughter walking around, and I was able to capture her movements with the slow shutter. There is the motion, there's light trail, and there's another one, I can't think of it at the moment, that you can set the app for. This is citified, and this again is a mix of several pieces. This is Through the Door. This I used part of, if you recall the earlier piece that was Totem, that had all those tree shapes, I used that in here. It's incredible the way you can create something new from something old. This is one of the latest slow shutters. This is called Crowded. And again, this is 2 or 3 slow shutter shots that I brought together in the different programs I have, and was able to, I think eventually I ended up in Snapseed, which is another program I use to tweak images. Okay. Again, more slow shutter. This is my husband's fish tank. He has a fish tank of Frontosa cichlids. And again, it was a slow shutter shot. And this is again, bringing together of a number of slow shutter shots, and again, playing with filters and the 2 programs I talk about repeatedly. And finally, down to the end, I was invited to present my digital art in Cuba in 2019. Unfortunately, my husband was not well, so I was not able to go down there, but the other 2 who were involved in the show were able to take my work down there. And it traveled to 3 cities in Cuba. It started in Camagüey, moved on to Santiago de Cuba, and then on to Havana. And so here are some of the pieces that were in the show that you'll see full size when I get there. Here are some of the Cuban people at the show. This was the curator, Juan Carlos. There he is again in the corner, hanging my work. I was just so thrilled that they took it upon themselves to put my show together. These pieces are about 20 by 30. And these are the pieces, the exact pieces that were in the show. This one's called Subterranean. Pianissimo. Oops. Oh yeah, here we go. This is how I made Pianissimo. This is a video that you can create in Procreate to show all of the steps. I started with a wooden floor, and as you can see, and I show this to people because they think, oh, this is easy to put together. You don't really have, you don't work like painters in the real world. And so I show them this, to show them that there's just as much work behind it, even though it's done with digital paint. Here's another piece that was done with shots of ginkgo leaves, old ginkgo leaves, and my painting. And this is the video of it. Oh, and I have a collage in there too. And so these are all the steps I went to get to the final piece. And that's the wonderful thing about Procreate. It has undo, redo, so you can decide, I do like it, I don't like it. This is, again, fabric. This is called Jonah and the Whale. Again, these are all in the show in Cuba. This was started with a shingle. In fact, the shingle is probably right about there. And the rest is paint in layers in Procreate with different brushes. This is called Forest Bog. I've forgotten the name of this one. So that's it.
All right, thank you so much, Cynthia. Thank you for your presentation. It was amazing.
Thank you. Shall I stop the share?
Yeah, you can go ahead. Unless there's a piece, or I could do that for you. Hold on. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. All right. Well, that was a wonderful presentation. And Lee is apparently one of the first people that has his hands up. Go ahead, Lee.
Well, first of all, amazing image making, really strong work. And I really applaud you doing an exhibit in Cuba during a pandemic. That boggles my mind.
No, it wasn't during the pandemic. It was 2019. The pandemic hit in 2020, and that stopped the Havana exhibit. It got postponed.
Still an amazing feat. I'm curious about those works that are hanging on the wall there. They look like they had been rolled up like scrolls. What was the material printed on?
It was printed on photographic paper, and the photographic, the 10 pieces were rolled and put in a tube to carry on the plane. And like I said, one of the people I know that was in the show brought the tube there and got it through customs. It's incredible rigmarole you have to go through in order to go to Cuba, in order to show your work in Cuba. So that's why they seemed rolled to start with. And then they have their own little hanging system, so you didn't have to frame anything, which was wonderful for me. And they had these tubes at the top and the bottom with a hanging strap, and eventually it would relax it and hold it straight.
So I would assume then if somebody bought one of those, they would eventually frame it under glass.
Right, but you know, you cannot buy art from the US in Cuba.
Right.
So there it is.
That wasn't what I was interested in as much as I was intrigued by the presentation of paper hanging on the wall, exposed. You can, this is my curator background coming out, you know, all sorts of dangers are involved with that in terms of
But
preservation.
there was a clear plastic piece on the front and the back, so the whole thing was secured. Should someone have a drink and it flies over toward the work, it would not hurt it.
So it was sealed, in other words.
Right, sealed.
All right. Thank you.
All right. We actually have a comment from Malavika. She says, "Amazing work, Cynthia. Love the texture and freshness of the colors. Want to know the process of the tree series. Are there any prints only, or are they reworked? And if it's printed, she would love to know the surface."
Okay, well, when I print my pieces, I have printed them on high quality photographic paper. That's one way that I've done it. I've also printed it on hammer mule bamboo on a panel that's been coated, specially coated to protect it. So that's what I've done so far. I really need to explore other ways to show the work, other than framing it like a photograph or placing it on a panel. I also want to blow it up larger. The largest I've gone with the pieces are 20 by 30. And I'd like to try something even larger than that. And, you know, I've explored whether, you know, to print it on an aluminum surface, a metal surface. There are all kinds of ways to do it. You can print it on canvas. So I'm looking into these different ways that I can print it. Of course, all of this is expensive, not the printing so much as the framing. So that's always a challenge. But yeah, it's something that I certainly need to explore more.
You can definitely attest to a lot of people in here using metal prints with their work. Quite a few people, myself included, really love that as a medium for printing. I don't know, I guess it's something about aluminum, it lends itself to digital work very well. Yeah, Tommy showing off his work printed on what is that, some sort of fabric? Oh, he has himself muted.
Trying to figure out on mute.
Yep.
Technology gets the best of me. Sorry. This is signs.com has prints on a wrinkle-resistant polyester fabric that's really fantastic. It's pretty inexpensive. And I've been making some very large prints through there. That sign, signs.com, has very
wrinkle resistant. What's the rest of it?
Like polyester. It's just a polyester fabric is what they call it. It's their banner material, but it takes I don't know if you could see the resolution on it, but the colors are nice. The resolution is pretty darn good, you know, and it has it's very lightweight, and so you could ship it, you know, inexpensively, and you fold it up.
Now, so how do you tack it up, Tommy? How do you put it on the wall?
I've been using IKEA curtain hardware. You know, IKEA, the furniture store, has different hardware for hanging curtains. I find that they're I'm not going to remember the name, Dictad or something like that. It actually might be it. DIKTAD, is the sort of hanger and sort of wire hardware they sell, $15, but it looks very, you know, sort of modern and professional.
Fantastic. I'll have to check that out.
All right, thank you, Tommy, for sharing. All right, next up we have Rebecca. I'll go ahead and lower your hand. There we go. Oh, you're muted. Hold on. There we go.
Cynthia, I'm so inspired by your work. It's so incredible, so beautiful. You inspired me to maybe try some, I'm able to bend things, I believe, try bringing some texture and other things and not just think I have to draw everything myself. So I'm very inspired. But my question is, on some of your work, you said you started with a shingle. And I just wondered, do you, and then your titles are so apt, like they just totally describe it. So are you, when you're doing your digital art, are you thinking something specific, or do you just kind of, I don't know, just see where stuff takes you, or what are you thinking about when you're actually doing these beautiful pieces?
Thank you, Rebecca. I generally am an experimental artist. In fact, I do belong to the group that you belong to. So that's the way I like to work. I like to throw something down and look at it, turn it around, and something happens. Sometimes things don't happen. I can tell you I have a lot of things that didn't work. But that's pretty much how I work. And as I'm moving along, a title might come, but sometimes titles are to be so difficult. So I look at the work and what does it say to me? If I can't come up with something, it's generally untitled. But yeah, I pretty much work experimentally. Not that I don't work with a concept sometimes. Maybe it's my emotion that works in with my experimentation. I think that happens a lot. And so, yeah, maybe I'm unconsciously thinking about something, but I love being spontaneous and letting things happen. And that's what I very much enjoyed about your presentation, Rebecca, is that you're exploring, and thank you so much for sharing this today.
Thank you, Cynthia.
Yeah, thank you, Rebecca. All right, we are actually running low on time, and there's a couple of things that I want to get to before we wrap up. But Renata, you can go ahead and get your question. Hold on, lower your hand. All right.
Yeah, just briefly, while we're on the subject of printing, I thought I'd throw in ceramic tile is another way of printing your digital work. So it comes in matte finish, or it comes in a gloss finish. So yeah, sorry, I'm bleeding in and out there, but the gloss is very beautiful. You can put a hook on the back of it. There's a man in California who does them for me. And I have to say that the color and the resolution of the image is really spot on. He's very, very good. And I will hunt down his name and send it to Cynthia and post it on Facebook group.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yes, I'd love to hear about that.
Always about sharing resources and, things that we all could definitely benefit from in some way, or at least learn what our options are. All right. And Chalda, let's see.
Yes, I was wondering, talking about printing, I haven't been happy with the metal. I'm wondering if other people have the same experience, that some of the detail is fuzzed, like in the beautiful texture that Cynthia had. Some of that would be lost, and the reds kind of lose their pop, and there's an overall kind of yellow shift. I found it very unsatisfactory. Am I doing something wrong? Other artists seem to love it.
It could very well come down to your printer or the resolution that you're using. Those are two big things when it comes to getting the colors right with aluminum prints. If the
400 PPI.
I typically use 300.
Yeah.
With mine, but I think Lee had something to add. I saw you raising your hand.
Just a
Cynthia.
quick footnote. I've had my work exhibited in several locations in Europe, and I was surprised to discover that every single one of them insisted that the prints be on aluminum. They didn't want to see anything on any kind of paper or fabric or canvas at all. They wanted them all on aluminum. Whereas here in the United States, just about every exhibit I've had here, it's on paper framed under plexi.
Interesting.
Okay.
Cynthia, you had something to add?
Yeah, I was going to say something about printing. That one of the things I do if I don't know who I'm working with and how good they are with color is I actually put my image into the most generic CYMK in Photoshop and strip off any unprintable colors. I mean, that will get rid of, because all the other methods with color profiles of seeing what's printable and not printable, if you don't have their profile, it's not going to work. And then I stick it back into RGB when I send it to them. But I will have gotten rid of those out of range colors by putting it into the dumbed down CYMK. And that usually works for me.
That's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know one of the labs I work with that print for me, they will do a test print of an area that may blow up and look fuzzy, and then I can decide if I want to go ahead with the whole piece, and that's been very helpful. It's like a $10 test print of an area.
Bay Photo is great. Yes, Tommy. I use Bay Photo as well. Cynthia, did you have something else to add?
No, I mean, I always have more to say, but
Oh.
all
right.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for your questions so far. We do have 10 minutes left, and in those 10 minutes I'd like to try and get in Malavika and Michael. I know you both had something that you wanted to share. So Malavika, you want to go ahead and share your information about your collaboration project that you're starting?
Yeah, sure. So can I share a screen so that it will be easy for faster also? Later on they can check the link for the more details.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, is visible?
It's coming. Also, thank you very much, Cynthia, for your presentation. I know I didn't actually do like a round of applause, but as we wrap things up. But thank you very much for your presentation. It was wonderful.
Thank you for allowing me to present.
Oh, no problem. Okay.
Can you see the screen?
Yep. Yep,
Yeah.
we've got it.
So I'm inspired from the Techspressionism a lot. And keeping that in mind, I want to do right now short thanks to Colin and Rahul for this project which you have come up with, the collaborative project. From that only I got inspired, and I was talking to my friends for multiple means. It will be maybe 2 or 3 continuous change of artwork collaborative project. So then one of my friend, she is having a gallery at Pondicherry, India. So we thought of, okay, let's come up with a physical and digital project. So this is the call for artists we have created. And as I said, I'm too impressed with the Techspressionism. So I have tried to add the Techspressionism word along with the link on the about part. And so this is a project where 3 artists will be working together. In the sense, I have created 2 different groups. One is digital, the other one is physical art, and we are doing internationally. So just wanted to share that whoever is interested can please look into this link and can join. And we are first taking the name of the artist and along with the art images. Once we get it, we'll send a selection note, and later on we will create the group. So I think I have given a gist because you have a short time. I hope there is an application form. I mean, I'll just go to that. It's a call for artists. If you click, we'll go to the application form, and this is the team. We are two of us are there. Me and my, I mean the person who's having. I think it's not getting. Yeah, she's Kirti Chandak, and here I am.
All right. Well,
So
thank
if
you very
have
much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And I went ahead and I shared the link in the chat. So if anybody's interested, they can go ahead and click that and, you know, go there and check out the project, which is an extension of
Yeah.
the project that started here.
Yeah, thank you. You have
Yeah.
done it already. Sorry. Thank
Yep.
you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Stop.
All right. And last but not least, we have Michael.
Thanks, Davo. Well, actually, I have two really quick things.
Okay.
The first, I mentioned it on the Discord server. So if anybody who hasn't been on Discord yet, or if you haven't joined the Discord server, please do so. I was fortunate enough that a couple months ago, I joined Playform to work on some AI art that I've been really exploring, and I joined their studio program, and they are just recently put together a new exhibition, which I got in, and it's going to debut on Rareable through Playform on this coming Monday. There's actually going to be an artist talk. I'm not sure if that's going to be viewable by outside folks. I'll find out. If I know that for sure, I'll post a link on Discord. But I'll be one of the presenting artists giving a 5-minute talk on my work. The thing that, just a little incentive, is that the artwork is available now and will be part of their AI program, where you can stylize artwork based on existing pieces. And one of mine is part of that stylistic grouping of the artists that are in this new show. And basically, if I get more people trying my artwork than anybody else, then Playform commits to bidding on the NFT, which is, anybody who's heard me talk about NFTs is probably chuckling right now. Because I got dragged into this. It wasn't my idea. But and then the second thing real quickly is I've got a solo show in September here in Phoenix. Techspressionism is going to be highlighted as part of the show. And from a very practical sense, I want to throw kudos out to Lucy Boyd Wilson, who's my collaborator in the show. She is helping me create the AR work. So I'm going to have a very interactive show that's got AR in my art. And I'm doing a few interviews locally and beyond, and Techspressionism is a central part of it. So thanks to everybody, and thanks especially to Colin. So there you go.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would totally like go all the way out there to go to your show if I had the means.
Yeah, well, thank you, Davo.
But
I appreciate the sentiment.
Yeah, I'll be there in spirit. All right. Well, I hope somebody else from here or other people might be able to attend if they're able, because we should try and help support each other in person too, not just virtually. So that being said, we are right here at the 3-minute marker for the end of the meeting. If anyone has anything else that they want to share in like 2 minutes. Oh, Colin, you got something?
I got something real quick.
All right,
I
cool.
just wanted to drop a link in the chat. So this is a project that I did with Helen Harrison, who's our group advisor. It was for the Paula Krasner Housing Study Center, and the site just launched recently. It's a show that's up there now called Picasso and Pollock, which is a really interesting show. And the site has a great essay on it, which talks about Picasso's influence on Pollock. And even though the two of them never met in person, Pollock was very influenced by Cubism and by Picasso's work. And just yesterday, actually, Helen sent me over a link to a Matterport capture of the installation which has been added to the site under the installation tab. So you can actually go in, and it's inside Pollock, Jackson Pollock and Lee Krasner's house. The show is installed in the house, so it's interesting. And the Picasso pieces are facsimiles that were created by a service bureau called Dugal, which is based in New York City, and they have a facility in West Hampton Beach. And then there's several, original Pollocks in the exhibition too, which are owned by the Pollock Krasner House. So it's a really interesting show, and I encourage you guys to check it out. It's just PicassoInPollock.org.
All right, and that link is in the chat. And if you, I will definitely upload this one because I haven't been good with this and uploading them to Discord, but this one will definitely go into the Discord in the chat log section. And yeah, we got 1 minute. So that, I guess we'll wrap things up. Thank you very much for attending and making this salon as great as it possibly could be. And, thank you for showing up, being here, contributing to discussions and presentations, all of that good stuff. It's all very much appreciated. So thank you, everyone. And thank you for being here. This would not be possible if not for all of you and the passion that you bring to the table. So thank you.
And thank you, Davo, for continuing to moderate, and do such a great job with it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, folks, this will be the end of the meeting. You don't have to leave, but we will stop recording in about 2 seconds. So adios.